ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
We dig into the trenches in episode 149 of the Bears Etc. podcast, and we're brought to you by Miller Lite with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Over the weeks leading up to the start of training camp, we visit with some key members of the 2025 Bears. In this podcast, we go over a pair of newcomers, right guard Jonah Jackson and defensive lineman Dayo Odeyingbo. And yes, it all starts in the trenches, and no one better to discuss the importance than my own broadcast partner, now in his 29th year, entering the 2025 season, Mr. Tom Thayer. Hey, I'm going to hit you right out of the gate. Are the Bears better on both sides of the line of scrimmage?
100% when you look at the talent they brought in, because you have certain key components to an offensive line in the interior of the offensive line that Dan Rochar and the coaching staff, they're not going to have to teach these guys a lot about fundamental football. They know how to play the game. They've been playing it their whole life at a really high level. They're super successful. So it's not like you got to take five guys and start teaching them the incremental types of details to offensive line play. You have three experienced guys that you're not going to have to spend a lot of time on, and they can also speed up the learning curve of the guys to the outside of them, Darnell Wright at the right tackle and whomever at left tackle. So offensive line speaking, I think they're a lot better. And then when we talk to a guy like Dayo, you're talking about a guy that has versatility. He's not just a one player, one position, inside, outside type of guy. He's got explosiveness, length, versatility that he can play up and down the line of scrimmage. And when you look at the other components on this defensive line, it gives you a lot more versatility from a coaching standpoint when you talk about Dennis Allen and the way he wants to devise a scheme, depending upon the team and the talent he's playing against.
I mean, we could address this all day long, but the two most important acquisitions of the entire offseason, from my point of view, and it goes beyond just their talent and what they've accomplished, and I'm not going out on a big limb here. It's left guard Joe Thuney, and it's defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, because of what they bring to the table from a leadership point of view. Hey, I think they are come follow me type of guys. I'll put you on our back, let's go. These are two guys who are going to do everything the right way every day, and I think that is a significant addition. Tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm missing out on somebody else.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. That's why they were so sought after in the free agent market. You have a couple guys that have experience, but they have experience that make your team better. They make your locker room better. They make your weight room better. The enthusiastic approach that I've got introduced and we've got introduced to Grady Jarrett is something that it was expected, but it's impressive. And so I'm really excited to see how that type of energy level can spill out to some really young guys in this football team that are still trying to find their path in the NFL. And then when you talk about a guy like Joe Thuney, look, man, his resume speaks for itself. He's got all the quality experience from successful Super Bowl winning teams since he's been in the league. And like I said, he can take the guy to the left of him because the center that they brought in, Dahlman, he's got experience, but you can really speed up the learning process of the left tackle.
You haven't met him yet, have you, Big Joe?
I have not.
I can't wait to hear that. I mean, what do you want to know from him, seriously? Other than, hey, my name's Tom Thayer. My name's Tom. That's what you do when you introduce you. My name's Tom. What do you want to know?
First thing I would say, how's your Uncle Mark doing? Because I played with his uncle at Notre Dame, and it's a conversation I've always wanted to have with him because his uncle was a good football player, and you're talking about in the early 80s back then. but it's just more of, hey, how's your body feeling? What, was a little bit behind your decision to leave Kansas City and come to Chicago? How has the process been since you've been here? This is an impressive facility that you get to come in every day. And listen, I was part of an offensive line that, did some historical things in Chicago. And, we can talk a lot about, that in relatable terms.
Yep. Super Bowl winners, the both of you. This podcast brought to you by the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Taste like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. So Jonah Jackson, acquired in a trade with the Rams, strong pass protector since 2022, allowing only 2 sacks and 53 pressures and almost 1,000 blocking snaps. Played at Rutgers, played at Ohio State, most importantly, played under Ben Johnson. Played offensive and defensive line in college as well. I didn't know about that part, and made the Pro Bowl in 21 while playing under Johnson, and in 22 didn't allow a single sack on 494 pass blocking snaps. Just 2 sacks in 2023 before signing a 3-year deal with the Rams, but suffered a fractured scapula week 2, and then was moved out of that starting position. So tried to play some center there. Now he's in the right spot at the right time. Let's listen in our interview with the newest Chicago Bear offensive lineman, right guard Jonah Jackson. From one double J to another double J, J squared, Jeff Joniak and Jonah Jackson with T squared, Tom Thayer. You guys have met before, and so I'm going to let him carry the conversation, but how thrilling is it now that you've been here for a few months to be wearing this uniform?
It's awesome. I was just looking at the pictures of the navy blue as an O lineman kind of keeps you tight. You know?
I like it. I like it.
You're not falling out the sides as much, but it's great, man. I love Chicago so far. It's a real football city, and I'm excited to make it proud.
What do you remember about the Bears from your time in Detroit? Because this is a division unlike a lot of others. So what do you remember about Soldier Field and the atmosphere? I
mean, it's crazy. I can only imagine being the home team there. Being the away team is definitely tough. It's electric. It's definitely, the elements work to our advantage out here. And just playing against the Bears, I mean, it's such a historical franchise, and they always have some big, huge linemen, just a nasty defense. And, we're excited to make this offense go.
You got a young guy to your right. You got a guy with a little bit of more experience to your left. How does that conversation go during the practice, maybe installation, in meetings, the new terminology that you're learning? How has that conversation between the two of them gone?
It's been great. We got a very bright group, very smart group. Hats off to Kyle, Dan Rochar, Kyle Devan, and Zach Cable, helping us out, getting us right. And a lot of this stuff I've known for years now because I was with Ben, so I'm able to peer teach as well and help those guys out. But I mean, I'm learning stuff from young guys, older guys, and things like that, all collaborating. And as O linemen, we all come together. So,
are you interested to see Ben, the head coach, as opposed to the offensive coordinator during the regular season?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's the same guy, head coach, coordinator, regardless. He was always a huge leader. Great voice, great play caller. So I'm excited.
Have you been grilled by your teammates on, hey, what is he really like?
No, I mean, he shows you what he's really like. You good and bad. He's gonna let you know when it's right and when it's wrong. So he's a straight shooter, and we love that about him. And the guys definitely love and enjoy his presence here.
So that's not like I think the Chicago media, with all due respect to the media, they have this image in their mind already that this guy is like tough nails. He's losing his mind out there. I had to correct somebody recently in an interview. I go, he wasn't losing his mind. He just wants it right.
Yeah.
But is he a no-nonsense coach?
Yeah, definitely. When it's time to lock in, it's time to lock in. And when we're outside of the lines, he's great, very personable. He's not a stiffler by any means off the field. But when you get on the field, you better do it how we want it. And that's how it'll be. How
does it feel, too? Because I think the symbol of this season, before we even take one snap in a regular season game or preseason game, is the interior three. The interior three that were brought here is almost like a shield for the entire team. It's been something that has been missing in terms of experience and quality and time on task. So is that a proud thing that you're a part of that? I know it's the team game, but the interior three are going to set the tone.
Yeah, definitely. It's the tip of the spear. And, kudos to the guys on the edges, too. I mean, people are forgetting about Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, Ozzie Trapillo, Karan Amagaji, all those guys. It's a collective thing we got going, but I'm excited. It's a bright group, strong group, experience. Even though we're the older guys, 3 years is pretty experienced in the NFL, and he was a day one starter on the right. And Braxton, I believe, was a year one starter as well. So
17-game season.
We're ready to roll, man.
I'm glad that when Ben got here, the conversation started with playoff expectations, winning expectations. And I think that's important when you have a veteran group of you guys that have come in here that have had some success in the league. Not only can you guys talk about it, but it's a message that can filter around the locker room that you guys are here to compete year one of Ben Johnson and your start with the Bears, that it's not a 5-year project that we'll worry about it down the road. This year's the time to get it started.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, every year the goal is to win it all. I mean, what else would you be doing if you weren't trying to do that? Who goes in and like, let's get 3 more wins than we did last year. Let's shut it out. Let's go for the whole thing. But it's exciting, and we're ready to get the ball rolling.
73, is that a Tony Medlin choice or is that a Jonah Jackson choice?
It's a Jonah Jackson choice. It's funny. I always wanted to wear 77. I got to college. 77 was taken. I tried to get 72. They gave it to somebody else, and I went to my locker. I seen 73. I'm like, what? Why am I wearing 73? What is this number? Then I started wearing. I'm like, it's a nice number, And then you make something of it. So I like it a lot.
It adds up to 10, so you could have a perfect 10 every day.
Yeah, right.
Look at it that way. So I forgot about this actually. Just getting some notes together before the season gets going here. That you went to Rutgers first.
Yes.
So Rutgers to Ohio State. We obviously know Greg Schiano very well. He used to coach here. So from Rutgers to Ohio State to Detroit, you already traveled a lot in a short period of time.
I'm all over the country.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? The good and the bad of that, I guess.
I mean, it's awesome. I get to play a kid's game and be around the guys all day. I mean, wherever it's at, I'm happy. I'm especially happy to be here in Chicago, though, with familiar faces. And I feel like my best ball has been played in the Midwest.
We were just talking to Drew Dahlman, and then you bring it up talking about playing a kid's game. Case Keenum brought up the same thing a little while ago. How do you turn the kid's game into an adult existence?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely – it's a job,
right,
per se,
correct.
Because, you got to study, you got to do your homework, you got to take care of your body. You're your own business. You got to make sure you're available. Right. But when you get in between the lines, it's mano a mano. It's it's a sport of alphas, and so you like to prove it.
Are you one?
I believe so.
Of course.
We'll have to see come Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, I like it. An alpha with a big grin and a devilish smile. I love alphas.
Yeah.
I feel. Hey, listen. I talk about this all the time. First of all, you just can't say you're an alpha. You got to prove you're an alpha to the team. Not forget about anybody else. And I covered 27 Super Bowls back, at one time. And you could feel the alphas even in the interview sessions during Super Bowl week. And I think we have some alphas brewing here. And clearly you're one of them. And they invested in you. And that means they love you already.
No doubt.
Was that an important step for you to know that, hey, they didn't just bring me here, now they want me here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's definitely nice. But, like you said, we got to prove it, all of us. And I think we have a group of alphas or whatever you want to call it. But we got a group of competitors, guys ready to roll and ready to win.
You were a part of a turnaround. What's the key?
Just buying in, buying into the culture. Not only that the coaches established, but the players established. And I feel like we have a good presence of that, great presence of that here. And, it's all about winning. Last year, I mean, how many games were decided by a point or something like that? So
5 or 6.
It's only a matter of that you had
the
5
shoulda,
more,
woulda,
6
coulda
more
thing.
wins.
That's why I say it all the time. I mean,
you're doing the dance.
People make fun of me. I go on the radio, I say, hey, every snap matters. Every snap.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if it's week 1, play 70, or week 15, play one.
Exactly.
Right? You subscribe to this theory?
Without a doubt. I mean, like for the turnaround in Detroit, before the year we went to the playoffs, I think we were like, or 2 years before the first year, Dan Campbell, we were like 3-14, but like 9 of those games we lost by a touchdown or a field goal. So it just comes down to that. It's not like teams are astronomically better than others. It's just every snap you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's and execute.
So you happy with right guard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as I'm playing guard, whatever they need me to do.
He's a right guy.
Well, I think of guys, if you're a left-handed guy and you could play left guard, if you're a right-handed guy, right guard, a little bit more consistent, natural balance and everything. So.
Definitely. Well, like I said, I started in the league at right guard.
Right.
Yeah, initially. I've always had like positional flex, like side to side and stuff like that. And especially this past year, being able to work a lot of right guard reps has built my comfortability level big time.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jonah. Something, the personality that emerges from young veterans, you could tell, I think, from my perspective, I think you'd agree, he really genuinely loves being here. I think he feels he's got a new lease on life. Obviously, couldn't play a whole season last year, was going to the Rams, thought he was going to have a long future there, but now a team actually wanted him. They traded for him here. So it's got to feel exactly how he presented himself.
Right. Well, you're back to the position you really want to play. You're a right-handed kid and you're playing right guard. That adds a lot of the balance and the understanding of how to play the position. Then you're back playing with the coach that you're familiar with and you have a relationship already developed with him. And then you're coming into the same division that you started your career and that you're familiar with. A lot of the locker rooms, the stadiums, the environments that you're going to play in. And then when you look at, his commitment to the game, one thing I like that Jonah said, and I keep thinking about going back to that interview, we talked about his preparation and his readiness. And he says, you got to be ready because you are your own business. And I've never heard it put that way before. But it is the truth. Every single one of those guys, whether you're at the top of the list or you're fighting to get to the top of the list, whatever you do to yourself for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you are your own business. And that's something that's going to stick with me. And you talk about a young dog teaching an old dog new tricks. That's what he taught me in that interview.
So you didn't necessarily, you did, let's be honest. You built your own house. You built you built yourself in the weight room. You had that armor on that you knew you could go into any battle and win the day. You weren't going to get beat. You weren't going to commit penalties. You weren't going to give up sacks. You were your own business, but you didn't think of it that way at the time?
Never. I never thought about it in those terms because I had the support of a great weight coach growing up here and Francis Rudy Rudiger. Then I got to meet the great Clyde Emmerich. And so those types of encouragements in the building stages of a young guy's career are so important because the reason that you have that self-confidence is because you develop a lot of self-confidence in the weight room and you believe in yourself with strength and preparation. But when he said we are our own business, it's like a guy owning his own semi. You are your own business, and that's exactly what Jonah taught me in that interview.
Well, yeah, it's something everybody should hear. Whatever their career is, you are your own business within a business. He had another quote, not in our interview, but I picked up doing some research. Screw the personal accolades. This is Jackson saying it. It's to win it all. The Bears are such a historic franchise. They've been there before. We're excited to be part of a turnaround. I've been a part of a turnaround before. We can definitely do it again. So he knows what it means. He also called himself a glue guy. So they're going to see my leadership, my work ethic, my effort, my strain down in and down out. He calls himself the Elmer's glue of the offensive line. I appreciate that statement as well. And how can a personality, because I feel he's a personality, he's got a good personality, carry an offensive line?
Well, just to reference what all those points that Jonah was saying, I always used to teach Jay Hilgenberg because I tell him that you started making the Pro Bowl when I played next to you, and then you never made it after I didn't play next to you. So it's kind of I say that with joking because I have all the respect in the world for the type of football player Jay was. But when you listen to what Jonah had to say, or you listen to my examples, it is about the 5 offensive linemen playing together as one. So it's not about the accolades. Hey, I'm so proud of Jimbo for being in the Hall of Fame. I think Jay should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Jay's stretch of Pro Bowls, what Mark Bortz did, going from a defensive tackle to a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and then the accomplishments of a 14-year career by Keith Van Horn. It's all these accomplishments of all the offensive linemen make the offensive line a great offensive line. It's nothing just one person is doing.
Yeah, and I imagine it's hard, though, at the same time, because when you talk about accolades, yeah, you want to win. You guys won a lot of games, won Super Bowl, but won a lot of games. So when Pro Bowls were earned and handed out, how did your unit impact the jealousy factor, or the attention factor? Because you guys as one were one big personality. You can go to any of those guys, and I interviewed every one of them. Bortzy probably less of a personality, but he enjoyed. I thought he enjoyed doing interviews. Did it ever impact your room at all?
Never.
Yeah.
Because listen, we had a Hall of Famer that was standing up at the board, running the meetings and watching tape and making sure everybody got coached equally. And that was Dick Stanfeld. And then whatever everybody was able to accomplish, and it was always about the success of the football team. And that was the big picture. It was never about, okay, if you got this guy made 12 Pro Bowls, but you never made it to the playoffs, that's really not the sense of accomplishment you're looking for.
And you've always maintained that, even in today's, NFL. If a guy, gets the accolades but doesn't get there in the championship, you have some issues. You have some questions. Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. Now open in Orland Park, Steinhoffels is Chicagoland's furniture and mattress leader with the largest selection to fit every style and budget, and is 100% employee-owned. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. One other question about you guys before we move on to the defensive line. What, in your opinion, was the reason that you guys didn't miss time, didn't miss practice, didn't miss snaps, didn't miss games for such a long period of time? It's not just good fortune. It wasn't just luck. I mean, there's no way. So what is the reason?
Getting our bodies prepared for the abuse of the game in the off season in the weight room. And this wasn't something that we are just trying to get through workouts. We are trying to become the strongest possible human beings that we could be. And it wasn't necessarily over encouragement by Clyde telling us to do things that could possibly injure us. It was the approach in the weight room to make sure that you become the strongest to whatever body type you have. And every one of us were different, but you also had the challenge of Mike Ditka. He was not a guy that was going to, come up to you're not going to go up to him and say, "Hey, coach, my leg hurts today. I don't think I can go." Well, go put your pads on, do what you can do, and then hold a bag for the guys that are working out there. And we kind of had that all for one and one for all attitude. If we're going to practice, man, we're all going to practice. And so there was times when everybody wasn't feeling 100%. Jay played a whole year with a bad elbow and bad shoulder. Jimbo had played a season with back issues. Just throughout the course of time, you're committed to what you're committed to. In the first preseason game on the opening kickoff return, I got hit in the elbow by a ball carrier. It blew open my elbow. I got 14 stitches on that day and never missed a play.
What?
So
this is something I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought I knew everything about you.
Yeah, there's a football card out there, and you can see my whole left leg is just completely blood drenched.
Now, how did that pop open?
I got hit so hard with the helmet of the ball carrier when I was blocking on kickoff return.
Didn't you have pads on your forearms?
No. No, that's stuff for North Dallas 40 in the movies.
That's right.
You didn't wear pads on your arms.
Hey, were you mad that you didn't make a Pro Bowl? In retrospect, did you feel you played pro? Let me ask you this: do you think you were Pro Bowl worthy at right guard in any particular season?
I think there. Listen, and I'll give you the honest answer. I think there were a couple years that I played well enough to even be considered, but I also played in the era that there were some elder statesmen at right guard and left guard that, sometimes you get that call. Honestly, I would rather see Jay make the 7 Pro Bowls and me make none instead of me making 1 and Jay making 4 or 5. It's
Why?
just a weird, huh?
Why?
Because I admired the way Jay played and where he came from. An undrafted free agent punt snapper who turned into legitimately probably one of the top 2 centers in the league when Dwight Stevenson was there from the Miami Dolphins. And so I was happy for what he accomplished.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. And now to the defensive line and Dayo Odeyingbo, another wonderful person, great interview. Among the pundits at the time, the signing of Dayo was listed, Tom, among the best value moves in free agency by Pro Football Focus. Calling him an ascending player. He was a second-round pick in 2021, so his best football probably is ahead of him, and it might be right here with the Chicago Bears. He got a long-term contract. His play, his reputation around the league as a guy who gets a lot of pressures, and how he projects to fit in with a big-time pass rusher on the other side of the line of scrimmage, like Montez Sweat, and whatever happens on the inside with Javon Dexter Sr., and Grady Jarrett and the rest of the rotation. I do believe the Bears' defensive line is better with the additions here, but is his best football ahead of him?
Yes. Like I said, he's got the athleticism to travel up and down the line of scrimmage. So no matter what position you're looking to have a little bit of relief or some extra reps out of, he has the capabilities of playing every position. But he's also not expected to come in here as a free agent and be the best defensive lineman they have. He wants to be part of a defensive lineman that has some pretty darn good components on it in Montez and Grady and the development of Dexter, and some of the other guys that they have out there competing. He's just got to be a guy that is arrows pointed up. And that's why they brought him in here at such a young age. Yeah,
he's still a young guy. Let me ask you this. I know sacks are sexy. You get 15 sacks, you're going to the Pro Bowl more than likely. You're getting paid, but that's 15 plays out of 1,000 in a season. Wouldn't you rather have more pressures that lead to disruptive plays, a pick? I mean, this is something of an exercise that if you sat down and watch every snap on the amount of pressures, what happened on that play with the pressure? Did it mean a negative play? Did it mean an interception? It may not have been a sack, but pressures lead to big plays also, or disruptive plays. Now, a sack strip, that changes things. A first down sack puts you in a whole lot of trouble, like a first down penalty. Third down sack in crunch time, obviously you want those guys on the field at all times. What's your thought on pressures versus sacks?
Well, I'm going to say shame on you for everything you just said. Because I'm more interested in tackles for loss than I am sacks and pressures, because you're not going to have the chance to get sacks or pressures unless you're stopping the run. Yeah. And when I look at his explosiveness and his ability to get into a winning position against offensive line, I'm just joking about what I said to you. I'm just saying that when I look at guys like Grady, if I look at guys like Dayo, I look at, hopefully the development of some of these other guys. If they can get tackles for loss on first and second down, and then all of a sudden they put themselves into a more aggressive approach by the defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, I think that's when we're going to be rewarded with the sacks and the pressures that are going to result in negative plays. But man, those tackles for loss, You throughout the 25 years that we've been together, the only badouche comes on a tackle against the run. You don't ever badouche on a sack.
Well, it depends. He might really rip him. Kyler Gordon on a blitz, I'll give him badouche if it rings a bell. It's got to ring a bell. I don't use it often.
then it's going to be new for 2025 because up until this point, Badouche has come from against a running play.
When I introduced Dayo to Tom, which I have to because I can't assume anybody goes back in time, but, you know, Tom's on the wall in the offensive lineman right now at Hallis Hall. That's number one, and he won a Super Bowl. So you have to pair it up with a Super Bowl winner and the Super Bowl starting right guard for the Chicago Bears and the Lombardi Trophy as part of his efforts in the foyer of Hallis Hall. Here's Dayo Odeyingbo. You know, that trophy in the lobby that you guys are trying to get, Tom, obviously, with the 85 Bears, wins that. It's very hard. It's very hard to get there. But it's why you play the game, right? It's because of the love of the game, but you have a passion for winning, and that's got to come through when you come in this building now, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to be able to walk through and see the history and the Hall of Famers, and then obviously the Lombardi right there in the front. It's a lot of motivation, a lot of inspiration to uphold the standard.
You're familiar with the Matthews family of the NFL, right? So Tom found this out. This is great stuff. This is how hard it is. The Matthews have a great history. 66 combined years from the dads, the uncles, the brothers of experience, and 66 years of combined experience. Tom, tell them how many Super Bowls they won.
One.
Wow.
One. Clay Matthews up in Green Bay. That puts it in perspective a little bit. Everybody says, oh, you know, we want our team to win. It is hard, and you've experienced it yourself. You know, you can be on good teams, but it takes a lot of luck, a lot of health, and the ball's got to bounce your way in addition to being a good football team. So when you start fresh here and you have that wide open road, do you feel like this is going to be a winning program now?
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I mean, that's what it's felt like since I signed. Like everything felt like the stars have been aligning in the right way, and I'm excited to get out there. You know, we have a great coaching staff, young quarterback, some great defensive players, and it's going to be an exciting year. So that's the journey we're on to that Lombardi.
You know, having a chance to meet you here face to face and looking at your length and knowing what an asset that can be on the defensive line, and then having a chance to talk to Dennis Allen, and he talks about how he wants every one of his defensive linemen to be explosive against the offensive linemen they're playing against. And I see those traits in your highlight tape. Is there a specific position, a specific spot you like to line up? Because it seems like you have the length and the template where you could play anywhere up and down the defensive line. What is your spot, your choice spot to play?
I mean, I like to line up all over the line. Like I feel like that's a big advantage for me to be able to use my speed inside and use my size outside to create mismatches. So, I mean, my favorite position is all of them. So
right.
Just being able to move around is kind of something that is big in my game, and that I'm excited to continue to do.
You got to have a guy like Grady, and his explosiveness, that's one of the traits that I've always admired about him throughout his career. When you have a guy that's that explosive playing next to you with your explosiveness, it's got to be difficult as an ex-offensive lineman to stop both of you guys. So having an asset like that next to you has got to be exciting to play with.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I'm fired up for the whole D-line. You obviously got Montez Sweat.
Right.
4'4" guy coming off the edge. And then, like he's mentioned, Grady, experienced vet and, still extremely explosive. And then you got Dex, in the middle, holding it down, young guy. But, man, like just watching him work and watching his work ethic and his explosiveness and workouts, and then seeing that translate to OTAs, man, I'm excited to play with him as well and play with, the whole D-line as a unit.
The interesting thing is, I hear about defensive linemen like, okay, I'm going to go out there and play my 35 to 40 snaps in a rotation, but I'm working this right tackle or left tackle, and I'm setting them up over the course of the game. But what you're saying, moving around, does that then keep everybody on their toes on the offensive line, and you can feel like maybe they're just bracing for they don't know what?
Yeah.
So which do you prefer? Like would you like to get consecutive snaps so you can get a guy set up in the fourth quarter when it's crunch time and the game's on the line?
Yeah, I mean, there's value to both, and I think I kind of benefit from both. I do get the opportunity to set up certain guys, on repeated reps, obviously on the edges more just playing there primarily on first and second down. So being able to set them up throughout the game on the edge and then move inside on third down and kind of be an element of surprise really helps. And then also kind of understanding the guys you're rushing with and what they've been showing the offensive line. Have they been given a lot of power, a lot of speed? Once they're set up, someone else can kind of set them up for you. So understanding, like, you've been bullying them all day, so giving them a different look, going out there and being able to give a different look is valuable.
When you get Dennis Allen, he's installing the defense for the first time in front of you guys. Are they asking you to do anything new, or is it pretty much what you've been doing since you've been in the NFL, just trying to perfect some of the traits you have?
For the most part, D-line play is D-line play at the end of the day. The technique and, schematically, it is a little different from what I've been in, at least in the NFL in the past. We were in more of a, just line up with 4 and just rush 4. And there's a lot more, blitzing and schematic changes that come with DA's defense. So I'm excited to be in a defense that's a little more on the attack and more aggressive in that standpoint, because it creates a lot of uncertainty, especially on the O-line when they're seeing different looks, seeing different guys blitzing. It kind of makes them hesitate for a second, and sometimes that's the difference between pressure or sack.
Are the linebackers trying to develop a good relationship with you already, making sure that you hold off the double team?
The linebacker is going to want to look out for you, all week, so that you take care of them on Sunday. So. But yeah, they're definitely excited to play in it and excited to have us up front and helping them out.
Right.
Everybody's talking about Ben Johnson's intensity, but what about Dennis Allen's? Yeah. He's a former head coach now, so I see him go to the huddle every single snap. Yeah. This is the early stages. I can't wait to training camp. But what's your take on your defensive coordinator?
And I love DA. Just in the short time we've been together, I'm a huge fan of the way he approaches the meetings and, like, his intensity, like you said, and the way he installs his defense. Like, it's definitely different from a lot of the coordinators I've been around.
Can you give us an example? Without giving away the company secrets.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's very direct and very deliberate. Like, he's not sugarcoating anything, and it's definitely a no sensitivity zone. Like,
as Tom always says, don't be so gosh darn sensitive.
Yeah, that's definitely. He might not say it as nicely, but DA would definitely say something along those lines. So he's definitely a little messed up in the head a little bit, but that's what you want out of your defensive coordinator. You want a bunch of guys on the defense that are a little messed up. So it's been great being with him and just seeing his intensity and the standard that he holds everybody to. I'm excited, and it's been fun already, but I'm excited to have some fun.
More numbers retired on the Chicago Bears than any other team in the NFL. Did you get the number you wanted? Did you have to twist Tony Medlin's arm a little bit, or are you happy with what you're wearing?
No, actually, I did want 55, so that was the number I wanted. I know 54 is not technically retired. That's what I was wearing before, but, I mean, it's basically it's a little off limits, understandably, rightfully so. But I actually did want 55. I wanted to change numbers already, so it kind of worked out well.
Barefoot in the grass. This is what you pull, right?
Yeah.
You're going to love the turf at Soldier Field now. Yeah. They upgraded it to a different barefoot before games. Isn't this part of your why? What's the point?
Well, there is, like, there's a lot of people talk about grounding and stuff,
right?
But a lot of these fields are turf, so you don't necessarily get the value out of that. But I think it's just one is kind of just a little superstition, and then two, it's just like, I guess, like getting my feet activated. Like you've been laying down or taking flights, and your feet are kind of, not really reacting as quickly as they could.
So you can feel the difference.
Yeah, I think so. I think it shows up, like, in your balance and stuff a little bit. So.
Well, there's a famous surfer in Hawaii, Laird Hamilton, and he goes everywhere barefoot because he talks about the amount of lightning strikes per minute and the planet Earth, and it comes up through the ground, and you can feel it in your grounding. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, go bare feet in the grass. It feels a little different. It's like, what was the last time you really, went barefoot in some grass since you were a kid,
Right.
All the time, so.
That's true.
I just came back from Hawaii, so I spent the last month barefoot.
Yeah.
So we had Adewale Agunleye was a pass rusher. He was here, and his routine included, so he, in pregame warm-ups, he would take 2 showers before he got dressed. Like, he'd go out there, say, that was his thing. You know, everybody's got something. Tom's a big cook. And I read, I think here in the organization they did a little something. You make a good gnocchi. Yeah. What's the secret to your gnocchi? I love gnocchi.
The secret probably not overworking the dough. You know, not like really beating it up too much.
Don't tighten it up.
Don't tighten it up.
Yeah,
right?
there you go. There you go.
So just just being I guess a little.
You like doing it though. You like that's part of your fun.
Yeah.
On the sides.
Yeah, I mean, I like cooking in general. Like last week, I made some. What I made last week? Some like pasta, some shrimp tacos, stuff like that. But I just like cooking.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I love to cook.
Yeah.
You know, it started with my mom, and it just continues today. And so it's kind of like rewarding. You figure out what you want to eat, what's good for you. You make it yourself, and it's going to be quality and good.
Well, he'll be cooking quarterbacks. Yeah. Thank you. I love the sparring, the discussion. He brings a lot to the table. I like the way he thinks. He's a young NFL player who has a lot of experience, obviously playing with the Colts, and I'm excited to see. And I'm excited to think that that Lombardi Trophy resonates with people walking through that foyer every day to the team meeting in the auditorium.
Yes, and again. The reason he's with the Bears is because of the versatility that's needed out of the defensive line components that they're going to have on a game day roster. But he's also been on a team that's gone through a coaching change. He understands the difficulty of going through a training camp, that it's going to be a little bit more high tempo and the decisions are going to be a little bit more difficultly made. So I'm glad that he comes in with the experiences he has as such a young guy. But like I mentioned, I'm glad that he's coming in here and not necessarily having to be the top alpha male on this defensive line. You got to be one of them because you're not going to have a non-alpha on a football team. But with Grady and Montez and the other guys, he's going to have a lot of guys to live up to and live off of.
8 sacks in 2023, 3 in 2024, despite a career-high 14 games. But here's the consistency. Played a career-high 719 snaps last season. That was number 1 on the Colts defensive line, and then graded out in the top half of edge rushers by Pro Football Focus. And he got after the quarterback with a lot of pressures. Brooklyn-born, raised in Texas, went to Vanderbilt, and then drafted by the Colts. And then you pair him up with Sweat, as we give you good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. I bring up Montez because, again, was he healthy the whole year last year? We've already touched on that on this show and on Bears Weekly. Probably not. Fought through it. But I think he's going to have a big bounce-back year in terms of making plays. He still led the Bears in pressures last season, and he's been very consistent against the run throughout his career. So this is not just a see quarterback, get quarterback. He's gonna stop the run as well, which is what you're talking about just earlier here with Dayo. So that consistency will be important. But how, if one of these guys, whether it be the interior or a guy like Dayo or a guy like Shamar Turner or a guy like Javon, Grady, Chris Williams coming in the rotation, Daniel Hardy, can take some pressure off Sweat to get some one-on-ones, will that be equally as important for Dayo in the game?
Yeah. I also think it's going to be important for the Bears defensive staff to be able to identify the vulnerability on the offensive line. So say they go out there week 1 and Montez Sweat is going against the right tackle that's playing against a rookie quarterback that's playing in Chicago, and it's a Monday night crowd. And Montez is getting that half step, that eighth of a second jump on that right tackle, and it's computing into pressure and putting the quarterback in an awkward, vulnerable position. So that's what the Bears defensive coaches are going to have to capitalize on. But as they get film in the can week in and week out, they're going to have to identify the vulnerability of the opponent, and then maybe Dayo's going to get that chance week 2. Maybe Grady's going to get it in week 3. Maybe it'll be a combination of Dexter and Zach Pickens in week 3. So it's going to be a process of evaluation because of the versatility of the athleticism of this defensive line that they're going to have to take advantage of.
Are aches, pains, or injuries keeping you on the sidelines? Athletico's movement experts are here to help you turn your setbacks into comebacks and create a personalized game plan for your recovery. With no prescription or referral needed, Athletico Physical Therapy is where your comeback story begins. Athletico, proud to be the official physical therapy partner of the Chicago Bears. Wrap it up with this. At the line of scrimmage, we've discussed it. I don't think we're going out on a limb saying this. Either left tackle will be the most impactful study at training camp right from the jump. Who wins that job? How healthy is Braxton Jones? Can he start practicing right away after that ankle injury at the end of last season? And Ozzie Trapillo, and then the work of Karan Amagaji. That's one story. The other story, and I'm trying to think of like where the biggest competitive battles will be as you go in with no depth chart to start training camp. I'm going to say that conglomerate of names I just mentioned on the defensive line, along with, Andrew Billings in there, and you mentioned Zach Pickens and maybe some undrafted guys, the battle for the rotation of the 8 or 9 guys that are be active on game day. Would that be, as you analyze the whole roster, would that be the other prime location to have your eyes go to training camp to see those battles?
Yes. So take this into consideration. No matter what the down and distance is on offense, the 5 offensive linemen, they're going to stay in the game. You're not going to substitute offensive linemen because it's 3rd and 8 and not 3rd and 3. Defensive line, you're going to have those substitute opportunities according to, like I said, not only the vulnerability of your opponent, but what is the exact down and distance. Now you see this right tackle is out there looking, and then you have a guy that's playing over the top of you, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and long, and here comes a fresh Montez Sweat off the sideline. Or the way they can change the talent and how they distribute it up front, because you get a guy like Dayo, how tall he is, then you get a guy like Dexter, who's how tall he is. Those are really 2 unique types of pieces that you can put in place. In playing against the 85 defense, Steve McMichael was not Dan Hampton. Dan Hampton wasn't Ming. You're talking about 2 completely different body structures, and when they would flip-flop in the midst of a cadence, now this left guard that hasn't played against McMichael is trying to think about, what do I do against this guy? Little shorter, really strong. And then you got a guy like Hampton who used his length as a really attackable asset when he played, no matter who he was playing against. So just that whole versatility of this defensive line, I'm interested to see during practice who's playing where on what down and distance during what period.
Yeah, because all those guys can't make it. I mean, there's going to be some really good rotational pieces that, may not make the 53. So I think it'll be a good battle.
And I think that's exactly what Ryan Poles wants. He wants difficult coaching decisions to be made because there's talent lining up each play.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. That's going to wrap up this week's podcast. Special thanks to our guests, Jonah Jackson and Dayo Odeyingbo. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.